Today we have two very, very notable panelists, Keisha Jackson and Pam Cusick. Keisha Jackson is a 22-year retired Air Force veteran and family caregiver. She has worked tirelessly in this field after taking care of her mom who had stage 4 inoperable lung cancer. Keisha started learning about caregivers resources to share with other caregivers. Also, we have Pam Cusick, who is the Vice President for Rare Patient Voice. What she does in this role is she's an experienced research professional with more than 30 years of expertise. As Vice President of Business Development, Pam focuses on developing client relationships and expanding patient panels. Pam hopes to expand Rare Patient Voices panels to include every patient who wants to share their opinions and impact their disease category. So today's discussion is helping patients and caregiver voice their opinion. Okay, it's great to have you on, Pam, and it's also great to have you on, as usual, Keisha. So why don't you lead us into this, Keisha, and give us a little bit of where we're headed with this discussion.
Sure. It's great to talk to you today, Dr. Arnold.
Yes.
Good to hear your voice.
Oh, same.
Very excited to have Pam from Rare Patient Voice on today. They do something that is really, really good for caregivers. A lot of times when I'm talking about the caregivers, we're so in the throes of what we're doing that you don't have time to sit, you don't have time to sleep, you don't have time to think. But with the pandemic and COVID and not being able to get to appointments with your loved ones, or maybe having to go on an appointment and wind up sitting out in a car with your loved one. This is something that can be done by caregivers, whether they do it at home, because it's pretty much done online. And Pam, she'll be able to talk definitely more about it. But I also mentioned to Pam, with this being the Christmas season, that this may be a way for caregivers to be, reimbursed for some of the things that they do. So, Pam, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about Rare Patient, if you want to talk about, how it started, where you're at now, and just take it away. Appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. This is a really neat opportunity. So Rare Patient Voice, as you said, connects patients and caregivers with the opportunity to share their experiences with companies that are creating products and services to help them. So we connect patients with and their caregivers with all kinds of opportunities. It might be interviews or surveys or focus groups. Sometimes it's product testing, but all of that is because the patient and the caregiver are really the experts in their conditions. They know more sometimes than their doctors do about what they're experiencing, especially in the rare space. It's hard for them to connect with other people in some cases. So it's a nice way for them to be able to share back what they know, so that when companies are creating products and services, they actually work for the patient and work for the caregiver. Specifically for the caregivers, there are a lot of conditions, and probably, Keisha, you know this better than anyone, where the caregiver really knows more maybe about what, the day-to-day with the patient is than the patient does, because, the caregiver is the one who is helping to make the appointments, helping to, administer medications if that's the case. They're the ones who are taking care of everything. So their voice and their experience is super important to researchers. And so what we have done over the past 7 years is we have gone to patient healthcare events, like a National Hemophilia Foundation conference or National Sickle Cell Conference. We meet patients, we meet their caregivers, explain what we do, and if they're interested, they can sign up with us. They never have to do anything, but if they do want to, they earn $100 per hour, and that's for providing their opinions about something. So it might be a new product or service coming to market, and they can give their opinion about that. Sometimes it's researchers want to know what the day in the life is. So they're having the caregiver maybe do a journal day to day And that for that time and for their expertise, we compensate them because, these decisions should not be made without the patient, without the caregiver, and their time is valuable. So that's what we do in a nutshell. We are currently, we started out in the U.S. We have a small panel in Canada, too, and we have now expanded to the UK and some, we will slowly expand to other countries as well, but mostly we work in the United States.
One thing I have a question on is, it's probably easy for people to understand the issue about rare, but what about the orphan diseases? Because sometimes that term comes up, and people don't really understand what that means.
Sure. It's in the basically the same, the category where, rare and orphan diseases, there are sometimes too few people to do a clinical trial, or there might not be, enough focus on those. So, the rare community, which, and with these rare and orphan diseases kind of come together, are becoming very powerful, and they are looking for opportunities to have products and services developed for their loved ones. I mean, some of these are life-limiting conditions that, their child may have been born with a genetic condition, and, it's not common like, heart disease or acne or, other things that, products are developed for all the time. But they're, a force to be reckoned with, and they want people to pay attention and focus on those rare and orphan diseases because they're, for, the longest time, there wasn't anybody, for them to even, a lot of times it takes them about 7 years to even be diagnosed on average because their, conditions are so uncommon. There are, people that we meet at some of the events that we go to where they are one of 8 people in the world who have the condition that they have. And it's, it's incredibly isolating, but the power that these, moms, dads, they just really, they really want to move forward and find, something to help their kids and other people who come after them.
Okay. Yeah, we have an audio clip that we would like to play, but it's rarepatientvoice.com, and it talks a little bit about some of the issues you just mentioned, and then we'll I have a couple of questions for you after we play the audio clip concerning this, okay?
Hi, rarepatientvoice.com. Patients and family caregivers are needed to join our confidential panels from where you will be selected to qualify to participate in surveys and studies to make your voice heard to shape products and services being developed on your behalf, and we pay you $100 an hour to do so.
It's easy, and the check comes right to you, and you can buy yourself something nice for taking a few minutes out of your day.
So I really appreciate everything Rare Patient Voice has done.
The questions you answer help us. I like it a lot.
What we have to say is important and can help people. And Rare Patient Voice gives me that opportunity.
When I think about Rare Patient Voice, I think just that. People with rare diseases being given a voice to help others.
rarepatientvoice.com. Join us today.
Okay, great. I just wanted to wonder, I was wondering, with this, when you talk about rare and orphan diseases, what is it really difficult to get the support? Because with it being a rare condition, if you're trying to get legislative support, if you're trying to get people to push things that will help people with the condition, whether it's money for research or for legislation that assists people, do you see that the advocacy role, is there a need for people to speak up and to help and join in this fight?
Absolutely. It's there are some organizations that specifically focus on the legislative things that you're talking about. Some of their larger groups that there's one, Global Genes, there's another one called NORD, that they focus on trying to basically like power in numbers, getting, a lot of these different groups together to try to help make changes, help, have their, their voices being heard and changes being made to, say, research agendas, so that we're not looking at research that you need a clinical trial with hundreds of patients, because, quite frankly, in the rare community, there may not be, hundreds of patients in that particular condition. And so there's, talk of the N of one, one person in a trial. If there's something that can make a difference for one patient now, it can make a difference for people, in the rare community down the line. So there are, the beauty of where we are with Rare Patient Voice is we meet a lot of these people, and we can connect them with other groups who are doing things. We have a lot of advocacy partners that we work with to help bring more patients into our community, so we can connect them with research opportunities. Right now we have about 700 different partners who help us. They may be, a small support group. They may be an online, like an online Facebook page where they kind of, group together and share opinions about what they're going through with their conditions. So there are small groups that are working towards some of this, in the rare space. And there are also larger, some of these larger groups that can help as well. We are also, as well as having the rare patients, we had people signing up, with us who have heart disease and who have other less rare conditions, and we thought, well, our clients are probably not going to, come to us for these non-rare conditions, and they do. So now we have both rare and non-rare. We welcome everybody, to sign up if they're interested in sharing their opinions, to be able to make a difference in their disease category for, either for themselves, their children, their parents, or others coming later who may be diagnosed with the same thing.
Oh, that's fantastic. I really would. That sounds very encouraging to have, people have their needs addressed in that fashion. And, I guess you also deal with the issues about treatment options, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy are many times needed in this arena. And those are things that really should be advocated for as well, I would imagine.
Sure. Yeah. There are all kinds of with the companies that we deal with, sometimes they're creating, programs and services for these different patient groups. And sometimes it might be about service delivery and how, maybe the challenges that a patient might have getting to, speech therapy or physical therapy or occupational therapy, and creating new plans and new ideas. And I mean, COVID is a perfect example for that. We've all had to change what we did very quickly and really make modifications to how we do things. And the organizations that we work with that are trying to capture the patient voice and use that to figure out what are some better ways to do things for patients, we feel like, the more companies we can connect with and the more patients we can connect with, we're helping to make things better for patients down the line. And that, I'm really pleased that we've been able to continue to build the number of patients that we have connected with even during COVID, because we're, providing them an opportunity to share their voice, to be heard, to impact the development of products and services, and, and hopefully make things better for them down the line.
That's fantastic. But do you see any special issues coming up with the COVID environment we're living in now? I can imagine that would only put a strain on some of the issues and put, a little bit more in the category of caretaker burnout, too, with all the things going on. So I'm not sure if you're seeing that.
Well, we are... There are several different studies that have, been done during this COVID time that we've worked on, having to do with telehealth and hearing how COVID is impacting kind of the change in how you are being able to be cared for and how caregivers can help their patients. A lot of times we're we are not conducting the research ourselves, so I'm not necessarily hearing the all of the details about what caregivers and patients are experiencing. But we do know that the burden is difficult. I mean, we are as caregivers isolated in a lot of ways, as Keisha had said, and COVID has only made that worse for people. We have a number of the categories that we serve are in mental health areas, or in and we're happy to connect those patients with opportunities to share their experiences, because there might be something that a company can develop to help them to deal better with isolation. I mean, this is a lot of times we're not listening. I don't want to say we're not listening to the caregiver, but as Keisha can probably attest to, when people ask, "Oh, how's your mom?" They don't come and ask how you are as the caregiver, and the caregiver, really, really bears the brunt of a lot. So I think, during this COVID time, some of what we might see is, products and services developed for people who are isolated and that can help them,
like telehealth and those kinds of things. Yeah.
Exactly, and some there are apps that are developed to help people with loneliness and so on and so forth. So there are some things that will be developed. They were not necessarily developed for caregivers initially, but I think they will help caregivers down the line.
Great. Okay, we're running out of time. We're out there. We're down to the last few seconds, but I just want to make sure we have rarepatientvoice.com. Is there any other way that you want people to connect your organization?
No, that's a terrific way. If they're interested in participating in any of these kinds of studies, they can go right to that website that you just mentioned and sign up, and we'd be happy to connect them with research opportunities as well. It's really a great thing, and patients really enjoy doing it, and caregivers do. Okay. And then they get paid for their opinions. It's kind of a nice thing on both ends.